You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. Really surprised by simply because of the age and what kind of chip you're getting inside of this machine. And yeah, you can play thousands of games all the way up to PlayStation 1 on native resolution. But what is kind of interesting but also kind of weird at the same time, they're still selling this. I'm guessing they still have like gigantic stocks of old stuff laying around. I mean, particularly when you're going to be looking into what you're getting, compared with the competition, there is so much more out there that can do so much better when it comes to emulation and costs only like the half of the money they're asking for this particular model. So in my hands I'm holding the original Super Console X over here. But you know, I love the case itself and how it looks, so there's nothing wrong with that. But what is kind of confusing, also when you're looking on the Amazon pages and you look very closely, you can see there's even a Pro model. On AliExpress they were having this like $40 Pro model and in all kinds of cool colors like yellow, purple, whatever, you can get them. And all of them will come with the same non-rumble wireless 2.4 GHz controllers, and the quality is, it's okay. Besides that, let's take a close look at the Pro model over here. That doesn't come from Amazon but AliExpress. When you're going to be looking at the overview and everything, this is exactly the same mold and with the same kind of a problem. So, but what do I mean actually with problem? Because this Super Console X Pro, but also the normal one, does come with thousands of different retro games that we can actually play. From the old school Atari, Commodore 64, 8-bit, 16-bit, if you want to play some PC Engine, you name it, it can be played on these low-end S905 chips. But the major problem is of course N64, PlayStation Portable and some higher end stuff. And also you're stuck on 3.9 EmuElec so far I understand. So this thing does come with a lot of limitations, the stuff that you don't have with some other solutions. And that is kind of cool, because the older EmuElec they're using on this, it's not the best one. We're still missing out many platforms like Sega Saturn, and maybe we have like overall okay performance with some newer systems, all the way up to PlayStation 1. We have some overall great performance on native resolution. And if you can grab this thing for, let's say, $30 or $39, it's going to be crazy. I think that would be an amazing deal, and that's the reason why I added this to the list of, let's say, best budget emulator. And the simple reason, because this is just a very cool emulator to play all of those old school retro games. So the only downside of this model was that it didn't have like any active cooling. So if this thing will survive in the future is of course a debatable situation. So let's do a quick teardown and I will show you what you're getting in the inside. Depending on the model of revision, some of them have these, let's say, blue boards. They look kind of new, but you also have the older version and they look kind of, let's say, cheap, like having reusing those old PCBs from Android boxes. Okay, so one thing is that you also need to take consideration they're using these cheap SD cards. I would always make a backup of these things. However, we're having over here the S905X and on mainboard version 1.2. Alright, so the first game that we're going to try is Dolphin Blue from the Atomic Wave platform. But you can just hear that it struggles. But I must say that it runs way better than with the previous test of the first model. Alright, so the next test we're going to try out N64. I'm just going to be honest, like this is absolutely running garbage on a cheap system like this. But some games are playable, beside of course the Cruising the USA. You can just hear that it struggles. Yeah, so that is mostly the problem with these cheap boxes. They're running on low-end stuff and they're not really great compatibility with some emulators. So if you want to run this, you need to have more power. And it's not going to be working great on a cheap one like this. Alright, so next up let's try Sega Naomi, and just wanted to see what happened when we would play some Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But a lot of stuff will run okay, and that's something I just wanted to show you in this part. Of course I did notice that some of these emulators we can see some glitches. I'm quite surprised how good the D-pad on this thing works. For this cheap controller that doesn't feel great, not bad at all. Okay guys, so let's take a close look at PlayStation Portable. And this will be a system that will not run on 60 FPS, and you need to have a lot of tweaking. There is no upscaling whatsoever, because this tiny box is just way too underpowered for get this to run perfectly. I think some games are still playable, and Soul Calibur is one of those. If you don't mind the starters here and there. I don't know if the camera picks it up, but you can see some glitches over here in the screen itself. What you can see over here, it's quite interesting to see that PlayStation Portable seems to be running okay. But again, it's going to be depending what game you're going to play. Okay, so next up I just want to try to PlayStation 1. Basically, like, PlayStation Portable is way more like difficult to emulate on these cheap boxes, but what you can see, even up to PlayStation 1 we can play it. The more demanding games like Bloody Roar will run fine. They will run on native resolution, so don't forget you can even upscale with some emulators, but not with this hardware. Already mentioned in the beginning of this video, so if you want to play some, let's say, old school stuff, 16-bit will run okay on these cheap boxes. So it's not all that negative, but you just have not enough juice to play all the, let's say, more demanding systems. And something they're also messing up with a lot of these Chinese systems are the audio. But with this system, or the Super Conflicts, it seems to be they are running it on great emulator. Oh, I knew that was going to be happening. Another thing I wanted to show you is like when you're looking at Mortal Kombat 1, that run was just okay on this. Well, when you're going to push it a little bit further, think about Mortal Kombat 2, 3. So this thing does struggle a lot. A little bit of a bummer, so I don't just want to like show you the negative, but I just wanted to show you what this thing is capable of. If you can get better performance the weekend, I'm not sure, to be honest. So when it comes to the S905X chip, it's not like super bad. There is still a lot you can play, but the construction of not really active cooling or massive cooling elements in the inside, I do wonder if this thing still works. Let me know in the comments if you have one of these things and does it still work, and how long are you using it, and are you using it a lot? But there are so many better options out there that has way better performance, at least for the amount of money they're asking Amazon. And I do wonder if they're shipping from a warehouse from the US or some kind, or is it still unpackaged from China. Thank you all for watching. That would be great if you subscribe, hit the little bell, and I will see you in the next video.